Can you talk a little bit about how democracy is understood in the U.S. and how it's practiced throughout the world?
It's odd, but I think we might have to start with a negation in describing what democracy is now. That is, first warning, we're in a time of danger where lots of wolves and sharks, if you will, not to give those animals a bad name, but are circling and using the term democracy to do all sorts of anti-democratic things. People must know immediately, danger. There's lots of false Democrats out there. And there is a very important and significant anti-democratic drive going on in the U.S. and the Western world. Make no mistake that the conservative, the right-wing, the illiberal, the anti-progressive, the anti-radical leadership does not believe in democracy. They will lie. They say they do. People are using and abusing the term democracy in all sorts of ways. I like democracy as a precondition. Alain Badiou, the French philosopher, has said democracy is now a precondition for philosophy. I like his idea, and I'd like to say that I think ingenuous democracy, that is true concern with and belief in democracy and its development, is a precondition of doing politics. But we are operating in a world where one must know that despite all appearances to the contrary, we are dealing with the most massive anti-democratic, destructive force that the modern world has seen, I think, with the intent to destroy democracy cynically. I've often said that in the liberal form of the U.S. is roughly in, which liberal and conservatives are both liberals in the larger sense of liberalism, where we are in history, classical, political, Lockean liberalism. In that world, that liberalism as a form of democracy requires ingenuousness, honesty. It requires ingenuousness. It's failing now. This disingenuousness is evidence of those who do not really believe in democracy. For example, the use of the freedom of religion to beat up on and publicly attack LGBT persons. Mm-hmm. That is an example of the shortcomings of liberal democracy. It's very difficult to combat these kind of attacks on people because liberal democracy is subjectable to U.S. people. It's not that liberalism is all bad. Mm-hmm. It's that largely it's not adequate to the task of these cynical, manipulative, illiberal in a way, although thoroughly liberal in another, anti-democrats. Democrat with a small d, of course. Liberal democracy requires presumably a belief in true equality. Racism doesn't allow for true equality. So, with equality being a premise of democracy, the idea of democracy, you can't have people who do things that obviously support inequality and call them real or ingenuous Democrats. As a writer concerned with democracy, respectability and safety, I would see them as dangers. Respectability might even be the grave of a writer concerned with democracy. I'm asking for people to get dangerous, in a real way. Each person has to decide for themselves if he, she, or they is willing to take on this danger. I can't tell you. I can tell you I think it's necessary, but what risk are you willing to take on?